Good evening and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk, our call-in show here on Skeptic Haven. We produce a ton of awesome shows on various subjects pertaining to religion, politics, social justice, and more. Tonight, my co-host James, who is a former Jehovah's Witness, like myself, will be fielding calls, taking questions and comments about the organization, sharing some of our personal experiences, and discussing our top most hated doctrines. We're inviting you to call us at 984-789-4787 to share your thoughts or ask that burning question you've needed to know about the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.
Hey there, James. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going, Ryan?
Going great. I'm really glad to have a former JW right here next to me fielding calls. That's going to be awesome.
Well, I'm trying to bring whatever little experience I have to the table for you.
Hey, we appreciate any experience. I'm not like I have much for myself. James, would you mind doing me a favor and getting us started with the information for the show so people know what to do, how to call?
Yes, absolutely. So welcome everybody to Let's Talk. It's a call-in show on the Skeptic Haven channel. Let's Talk is a safe place for atheists, those questioning or leaving religion, and anyone that wants to ask questions and have respectful discussions. From the U.S., call us at 984-789-4787. And from outside the U.S., call in from your computer using the URL on the screen.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, we are looking for anybody to give us a call and maybe share your experience with the JWs. Maybe you're not a Jehovah's Witness, but you may have had them come to your door. You might have had interaction. Or maybe you just want to ask us some questions, maybe what it's like to be in a cult. I don't know. Does that sound interesting at all to you, James?
Well, I mean, depending on the callers, whatever sounds interesting to them, feel free to ask us and we'll be happy to answer it for you.
Yeah. Why don't you, since we might have some people in the audience who have not seen your face before, how long were you a Jehovah's Witness for, James?
Well, I was born into the religion and I left in 2018. So I was 36 years old when I left the religion. So just a few short years, really.
Okay. And you've been making content for how long now?
I pretty much started making content right when I left because one of the
Okay.
things I wanted to do was to help others in their waking up process the way that content creators help me in my process. You start to
Right.
watch it and it makes you feel not crazy anymore because all the questions and things in your mind, you're starting to see the answers for, and you're just like, wow, I'm not the only one. So I want others to have that feeling
That's right.
that they're not the only ones out there going through these questions and struggles and everything else. We all went through it. There's support for you, and we're here to help you.
It's pretty alienating, would you say, when you first start to wake up and you might not be wholly in the religion, so you don't necessarily have a support system there. You might not have your foot out the door into the worldly life, so you don't necessarily have a support system there. You're just waking up trying to figure out where you are and orientate yourself and discover
Well,
yourself. I would say I'm
that's one of the
going through some self-discovery.
that's one of the things the witnesses are really great at doing is isolating you from the outside world of their cult bubble.
Yeah.
And in doing so, when you are in that process of waking up and starting to discover things outside of the organization, you still feel very isolated because if you don't have any friends outside the organization to begin with, if you don't know anybody else, you start to really feel isolated. And if you don't know about these shows, these groups that are there to support you, it's even more
Yeah.
so. You feel really lonely. And the more we can get ourselves out there and seen on the algorithms and everything, the better it is for those waking up because they'll find it faster and not feel so alone at the start of their journeys waking up.
Absolutely. And to be honest, like before I woke up, I wasn't really like going to Kingdom Hall, but I was like kind of faded, what we would call faded. And had information popped up for me, had I shown any remote interest, I guess, in religion at all, maybe some videos would have popped up on my For You page somewhere. I don't know, Facebook, YouTube, and hit me with some information I would have been interested in hearing. But that did not happen. It didn't happen for me until I went searching for it. So
See,
it
that
would be
actually
nice to hit people. You see, it was
it,
different for you. Isn't that
it was
interesting?
it
It's
was because
weird.
that did happen to me. Because the year that I fully woke up, I wasn't searching for any of these XJW YouTubes or Reddits or anything like that at all. But what happened was
Same.
I was having a lot of car problems, and I'm a do-it-yourselfer mechanic, and I was on YouTube a lot looking up videos for my particular problems. And the XJW videos started popping up in my suggested feed. Obviously not my subscriptions because I didn't have subscribed to any of them yet, but my suggested feed,
Yeah.
I started seeing these XJW videos pop up, and
So weird.
I remember sitting there kind of on the couch at home and kind of looking around because, my wife in the room and kids, and I'm like, I got my earbuds in. I'm like, click on one.
What the
Started
heck?
clicking on one. And then, oh, I better shut this off. This is apostate material. But what little I heard made sense. And then I'm like,
Mm.
I want to hear more. And so my curiosity got piqued. And I'm like, I gotta see what more they got to say. And then that's when I started going down the whole rabbit hole of waking up from my indoctrination.
What would you say is one of the biggest things that you learned when you first started looking at this information that, I don't know, I guess threw you for a loop or really propelled you to wake up like, oh, wow, this is bad?
Oh, you mean like my ultimate aha moment?
What was your like epiphany moment?
That was when I watched the Australian Royal Commission.
Mm,
And
mhm.
I watched it actually in like little sections at first. And then I'm like, no, I want to see this whole thing from beginning to end. So I went from day 1 to day 8 of this thing, and it's all on YouTube.
Wow.
I actually have
Mhm.
it in a playlist on my channel for anybody who wants to watch it on my Formative Free channel. But on day 8, and there's 2 parts to day 8, and it's an interviewing Jeffrey Jackson, who is a governing body member, aka leader of the Jehovah's Witness organization
Spiritual
worldwide.
leader.
And
Mhm.
he was put under oath on the stand, of course, talking about the CSA problem in Australia. But this really goes to a much larger scale when you really start to research these things. But he got
Scary,
on
yeah.
there and started lying. And believe it or not, the first thing that I heard him lie about, it wasn't the question that a lot of XJWs will tell you, where they'll tell you the question that the lawyer asked him about them being God's only true organization. Yes, that was part
Yeah.
of it, but there was
Yeah.
another question before that he lied about, and
Okay.
he was asked a question about if somebody had faded and they started celebrating Christmas, and the elders came by to visit, even though they weren't going to meetings anymore or anything, would they be disfellowshipped? And he's just
Right.
outright said no. And I'm just
Mhm.
like, you're fucking
Lie.
lying, I'm like, that's
We know
bullshit. I
that's not the
know that
truth.
because my dad was an elder in this organization, and I know that for a fact that they would have been disfellowshipped because they're not supposed to be doing that. And I'm like, okay, that's it. And then of course the other question, are you God's one and only true organization? I was
It's
trying to be,
presumptive, right?
yeah,
Presumptuous.
presumptuous. Phil, I was trying not to just say that the full term on the air. I didn't want to affect the any monetary
I
or
think he
anything for
might
the
mean,
channel.
what do you mean that there's I think he might be speaking like, what is the problem? I think a lot of people don't realize they're hiding just like the Catholic Church for hundreds of years been hiding their problem with Shmeta Shmelia.
Yeah.
That's what the the ARC was about. It's about, they were searching into all these different religions to find out what they were hiding, basically, and found out the JWs
It,
were just
it's
as
it's
guilty as the
it's
rest.
child abuse, and I'm sure you can figure out what the S word is now, Phil. because he said it in the comment.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know what it is. So,
Oh, I'm
uh,
sorry. Okay.
so, but yeah, and that's just the thing, when you see all these problems of it, and I got to witness firsthand how it was handled via my wife, and
Yeah.
I knew having kids that if any of something ever happened to my children, I knew even before I doubted and woke up from the religion that I was never going to go through the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses for them to handle it, because I already saw how bad they handled it with her, and I'm not going to put my kids through that. So,
Right.
with having that knowledge and then finding out about the ARC, or the Australian Royal Commission, that was just like mind blowing. I'm just like, okay, that's it. This is all just a
Yeah.
bunch.
How can you
Yes.
ignore that now? How can that not wake you up to some extent?
Yeah.
And there are witnesses who sadly do know about it, and it has not woken them up.
And the sad thing is, like, I'll be in like, because I'll troll Jehovah's Witness Facebook groups, just for fun, because I like doing that,
Funsy
and you'll
James.
bring up the whole problem of this issue, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, it happens in every religion," and here's the question I like to ask them, and I have a friend who is still technically a JW, and I asked him this question too. I ask, if it really is God's one and only true organization and religion on earth, shouldn't they be setting the example worldwide on how to handle these cases rather
Bingo.
than having the same exact problems as the Catholics, the Protestants, and all these other churches out there, and not being any better than the next one?
They try to distance themselves. They try to separate themselves and make that distinction that they are so different, just like the Israelites were so different than the Canaanites.
Mm-hmm.
And what have we been learning? They are the same people. They're doing the exact same things. One and the same, basically.
Not this one, Dan. That's my first one. So I got this one a couple years ago. That's my Phoenix breaking the chain of cult oppression. My new one, let's see if I can. That's one
Your
right
koi.
there. That's my koi. It's a yin yang
I love
koi,
that.
and my wife has another one, so it's a couple's tattoo with my wife. And then I have this other one here on my other arm. I got the two forearm ones the same day.
Does
So
the anchor and the steering, is that's not a steering wheel. What is it called? I don't know.
it's just a
A
wheel, anchor in the
rudder?
wheel.
No, whatever.
No,
Does that have any significance? You said the other one was about, the phoenix was breaking out of called oppression, rising from the ashes,
right.
symbolism. I totally see it. Was there anything there symbolic?
Not for the anchor one, because I mean, I work in shipyards, and I
Okay,
like the imagery of it. So,
right.
I just always really thought it was cool. So I just got one.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes that's all it's about. It's just something that comforts you, interests you. I mean, that's what all art is really meant to do, right? Invoke something.
Yeah.
And for you specifically, I was just curious if it had anything to do with cult, like you're steering clear of the cults and and
I'm
you're
I'm
anchoring
I'm
yourself
anchored in my
away from
atheism.
yeah, you're anchored. Exactly. Right. Exactly. There you go. Oh, I love it. See,
Uh,
symbology. Oh, that's good stuff. Just a friendly reminder to our friends in the audience, anybody who is listening, if you would like to give us a call and share your experiences, we'd like to hear from you. And the phone number is 984 789 4787. And also, just a friendly reminder that we have so many great shows that are produced here. We have a lot of awesome people backstage doing some hard work who don't get their beautiful faces seen, but they're handling business for us. And we truly do appreciate that. But you got to check out our other shows. Um, we have Sunny. Oh gosh, where's the um thank you. See, I knew we have this. We're just so prepared. Don't forget to check out our other shows on Skeptic Haven, Secular Soapbox on Wednesdays, Thursday, The Sunny Spot, Saturday, the Global Atheist, and Women's Atheist Unload. And now we have Let's Talk Today on Sundays. Love it. There we go. Thank you so much. I do appreciate you guys behind the scenes helping me out, because buttons to click, that's difficult. It's difficult for me just to click a button. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, I usually help you out and handle that mostly on our other show.
Yeah, and this is a good opportunity to tell everybody that we do have another show that we host on Apostate Weekly, also on Apostate Coalition. Those are 2 YouTube channels if you'd like to check out, where we do a Wednesday mornings, we do a weekly dish of religious news. And a lot of times we've had some super busy weeks where we've actually had to do 2 shows because there's just been
Yes.
that much information. And it's a lot of times the
Yeah.
JWs, of
I-
course.
I mean, the last couple of weeks, fortunately, we've been able to slow down a little bit on our show, trying to find some stuff for it. But it's been a busy year, though, for the most part. Because, I mean, we have done, 3 or 4 extra shows just because of the news going on. And it's only
Yeah.
supposed to be a once a week deal. And we've had to add extra shows just because there's that much that has been going on. So,
Yeah, there's a lot happening behind the scenes if you're not aware with the JWs and the news and their legal troubles. Yeah, there's a plethora of stuff happening, and it looks like we have our first call, James.
awesome.
Yeah. So, hi, Dan. You are on live with James and Ryan. Thank you so much for calling. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear well. Yes.
Hey,
Awesome.
Dan.
Thank you for calling,
Okay.
Dan.
Yeah. Well, I'm an atheist, and usually the Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door, and I got 2 groups. I got a group that comes, the Spanish-speaking group. They knock on all the neighbors' doors, and I also got a second group that are all English-speaking groups. They're usually older people, and they always came to my door, and they came one time. I remember the English-speaking group came one day, and they called me in my garage. I was sitting in my garage, and they started talking to me. And then they said, they started to talk to me, right? And I told them that I don't want to deal with the elders. I don't want to go back to the church. And I think they thought that I was expelled. And basically they just stopped coming to my door. They still go to my neighbors' doors, but they don't come to me. So I think they thought that I got kicked out of the church.
So they're afraid of
That's
you.
funny.
Are you a former JW?
Yeah.
Okay, but
No,
you
not so
knew.
much. Ex-Methodist.
Okay, so that's so funny. You use some words that they recognize, and they just possibly assumed that that you're kicked out, and now they don't want to associate with you. You're
That's
bad
right.
association. Oh
You just
my
sound
goodness.
well educated on who they are, so that's good.
Yeah,
So
the good thing
you
is
have
that they stopped knocking on my doors. So I guess it put me in some kind of blacklist, and they don't knock on my door anymore.
you're on timeout, is what it might be. They might make the rounds in another year or 2. It might just take some time, but they'll put you back into circulation.
Well, if they think you're either disfellowshipped or an ex-member, they will put you on a list of not to call. But what will happen is every year or 2, depending, they'll send some elders, which is their congregation pastors, back to your house just to see if that is still the case. So you're not going to totally get rid of them, but you can at least knock down the frequency of them coming by, and also help control who comes by, because they won't send any of the women or children or anybody who's not an elder to your door after that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
Dan, did you say that you have different groups? Like there's Spanish speaking and then I guess English speaking congregation that come through your neighborhood?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Okay. Have you in previous cases had excess of people knocking, or I'm wondering if, like, how do the congregations handle that? Because they'd have to be knocking at every door to know if somebody's either speaking English or if they're Spanish speaking. Somebody has to be relaying that information back to the other congregation, or they're just covering the same territory, which just seems like such a waste of time. I'm just
Most of my neighbors are Spanish speaking. There's a few that speak both languages and some that speak only English. So I guess they
okay.
we get both groups coming to the neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah, they will do that actually, because when I was a teenager, when I was going out and knocking on doors, I wanted to learn Spanish, so I started attending meetings at the Spanish congregation, and they would actually get lists from the English speaking congregations of who they knew were people who spoke Spanish to send the Spanish speaking people to their door specifically. So that's probably
Okay.
what's going on in your case here.
Oh, okay.
And they probably they've probably warned them. Like, uh-oh,
Yeah.
we don't know what's up with this guy. He mentioned the elders. I don't know what that means. He's afraid of something.
But I mean, as far as getting them to stop coming back, at the very least, whenever they come back next time, say, please put me on your do not call list. And they will make a notation of that. And they still might have the elders still come by, like I said before, just to check and see if that's still the case. But that is the most respectful and nice way of getting them to not come back. Now, there are other thoughts on that, on people that have said to do wild and crazy things that could be hilarious. I don't promote those, because I think all that does is scare them more into their cult and makes them even more resolved to never wake up or open their minds to anything outside of their bubble.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah, thank you for that. That was good.
Yeah, no problem,
Yeah.
man.
Thank
Is there
you for
anything-
calling, Dan.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, thank you very much.
Yep,
Take care.
thank you. You have a great night.
Have a good one. So when it comes to, thank you, Dan. So when it comes to JWs coming to your house, how at this moment do you approach them? Do you speak to them? Do you answer the door? Like, what do you do nowadays?
Okay, so I've had it happen twice since I've left, and it's been in two different houses. And the first time was pre-COVID. The last time I didn't get to answer the door, my wife did, so I don't know. But the first time, what I did is, there was these two ladies at my door, and their kid was actually standing at the end of my driveway, and I stopped them in the middle of their introduction. I said, look, let me stop you right there. I just want to let you know that I am I'm an ex-Jehovah Witness apostate, and I understand why you're doing this. And I said, I thank you for your time and for coming here. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I said that with a big smile on my face, real calm, real sincere, but their eyes were just like a deer in the headlights, like, oh my God, we got an apostate at the door.
No.
And they did not say, after I cut them off from their introduction, they didn't say a word, not one more word after that. They didn't say goodbye, have a nice day, nothing. And that was it. But I made sure I was still very friendly, though.
And I think that is something I'd like to explore a little further when it comes to the Jehovah's Witnesses preparedness. I do think that in some ways they are able to recall a lot of biblical verses and whatnot. Like, I think they're pretty good at knowing the Bible better than your average person. So they kind of sound like they know some stuff about the Bible. But when it comes to those situations like you just mentioned, how prepared are they? Like, I don't think that they are truly prepared for people who have more knowledge than them, or somebody who might just outright say, I'm an atheist, I know my Bible better than you, like, let's have at it. I think they're only prepared for those people that they know more than.
I'm going to agree with you on that. That that year that I woke up, I remember having a conversation with a coworker. It was like I call it my last stitch effort to witness. And I was trying to witness to a coworker.
Oh,
And
oh
we were
God.
working together on a Saturday. So, we talked for about 3 or 4 hours while we were working about religious stuff. And he was a Southern Baptist and he knew his Bible very well. And, he was going off and quoting things and this and that. And, I was nowhere near prepared for what he was saying at that time,
Oh dear.
and I, was trying to find a way out of the conversation, honestly, because, when you know that they know more than you, you're just like, okay, I don't want to keep
Right?
pushing this button here,
Because you're only there to get your say out and maybe answer some questions. It's
Yeah.
super uncomfortable when you come up against somebody who's your match or better. You're
Well, I
not
mean,
trained for that. You don't know how to have conversations beyond when
if you
you're in control.
if you think about it, go back to when you were a JW, right, and going to meetings. We had what they called the Theocratic Ministry School, and that was to basically train you to go out preaching door to door.
Like a
Well,
soldier.
most of the training was how to do an introduction, what topic you're going to talk about, and that was basically about it. Maybe try to start a Bible study with people, right? But
Mhm.
when you went out door to door and you only had that one or two topics in mind, maybe you weren't prepared to have a conversation. You were prepared to go to somebody's door and tell them what they should believe and why it's
Yeah.
us, and not have anybody come back at
Not a
you with
dialogue.
their dialogue and have an
Mhm.
actual conversation. Because that's
Nope.
not what the point of that was.
No. You're not again, you're not trained for that. You're not trained to have real, genuine, heartfelt conversations about the Bible. And I would like to, at some point, if some JW knocks on my door, have a conversation, like a real conversation where I'm asking them questions, trying to get out the answers and see how that goes. I don't know when that will
Well,
happen, but
you know what you can do? You
what?
can actually go onto their website and request a
Oh
Bible
Lord.
study.
Oh Lord Jesus. Oh hell no. Oh
Oh, come on.
hell
That,
no.
that would be hilarious.
Oh hell no. So when it comes to the JWs dragging young children with them, sure, I could see it being in some regards a shield from hostile reactions. But as Jonathan said, it's really just part of the indoctrination, introducing them to being in situations that are uncomfortable, that could be hostile, to make them feel different, make them feel special. It's that trauma bonding, like, oh, how horrible they were to us, sweetheart, at that door. Boy, see how like mean and worldly these people are. Yeah, it's all just part of the freaking cult life.
It is, and it's really sad because how many kids, or not kids, but how many people have we heard give their experience post Jehovah Witness, say how when they were kids they were scared to death of knocking on a door with one of their schoolmates answering, you
That
know,
happened to me.
and it's that
It was
trauma.
the
Then
worst.
you got to go to school the next couple days or day or
So
whatever, and
awkward.
see that kid at school that you knocked on their door, and then they're going to tell all their
Mhm,
friends and the whole school's going to
mhm.
know, and then you're going to really be the outcast. And then that,
Yep.
like you said, that trauma really sets them up to be in that cult mindset and fall for the indoctrination because, oh, I'm being abused, I'm getting it, oh yeah, we must be the true religion because this and this and this is happening. Well,
They're persecuting
your
us.
your organization has set you up for that.
Yep.
And that's all that is. They've set you up to believe this by doing this and making you feel that way. Because if you never knocked on their door, if you never were part of the organization, you wouldn't have that at school.
Nope. And Fern, oops, I clicked the wrong one. Fern says evangelicals don't want to have real discussions anyway. It's about the othering process. Yeah. us against them, reinforcing the us against them, and to get the believer more comfortable with the cult than the non-cult members. 100% spot
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
And
Because I mean,
I don't know about you, but I've ran into schoolmates at the door. That was the worst experience.
and I never made it with any of them, Jonathan.
Oh man. And you know what? To be fair, his name was Dan, actually. And he was really super nice about it. Like I think he was just like taken as back as I was when he answered the door and saw me. Oh my God. I think I was in 7th, 8th grade, something like that. Totally awkward, like the weirdest awkward phase. And a cute kid opens the door. It's like, oh great. Yeah. But he
Well,
anyway, he
that
handled
would be
that
even
nice.
worse, especially if you were attracted to that classmate or whatever. Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, he was cute. He was a friend of mine. I don't know. Whatever. What are you gonna do? Such is life.
yes, it
But
is.
my husband actually, the reason why I said I don't know when Jehovah's Witnesses will come to my door again is because they did actually come to my door a few months ago. And Hubs, because he's protecting me, basically told him like kick rocks, like get to stepping. You're not supposed to be in this neighborhood. There's no soliciting. That means you. So get out of here. And I was like, and he was like, what? And I was like, I kind of want to talk to him. He was like, oh my God, he felt so bad because he didn't he's thinking he's doing the right thing. And
Right, right.
but to be fair, up until that point, for a couple years, I would completely avoid the door if it was JWs. Like I would totally not answer. But I finally have gotten to the point where I feel like I'm comfortable enough. I'm not in that trauma phase where it would, I wouldn't want to trauma dump or anything on them, because that's certainly just going to scare them more. I want to keep it just strictly about the religion. So yeah, that happened. So I don't know. They might not come back to our house for a while. I'm not sure. Oopsie.
Looks like we got another caller on the line here, Ryan.
Yes, we do. Hi there. You are on live with Let's Talk, James and Ryan. Can you hear us?
Yes. Hello, Ryan and James.
Hey, Dad.
Again.
Hi, Dad.
Yeah. Hey, I want to answer Kat's question on why we bring our children door to door. Basically, it's because we are instructed to do so, because this is part of our children's training to become good little robot ministers in the future. We did it with both our sons, and the first son didn't take hold of it very well, but the second son, I don't know what his name was, but he took it hook, line, and sinker. He was the people out there throughout his childhood. But we're obligated to do that. It's an obligation that witness parents have with their children in training them. And also, through that instruction, it's we would be intimidated if we did not take our children from the organization door to door. It's just all part of this thing they have developed, going out in field service, as we called it. I was there as a child. I think it's better now. I know it was a lot better when our kids were children than it was when I was a child, because they would send me and another friend of mine, we were like 6 and 7 years old, door to door by ourselves. And when we were kids, and we met some pretty nasty people. But it is a little bit better now, but I don't know what I see those in field service doing now with the cart witnessing. That's like witnessing for dummies. I never seen such.
Yep.
They are so lucky. Like, oh my God,
I
if I could
know.
only have just stood next to a cart, God damn it.
Well, Dad, let me get something straight with you here real quick too. Field service for me and you, well, more me because you were working, entailed going fishing with Grandpa. And I'll tell you why that is, Ryan, because my grandpa actually named his fishing boat Field Service. So if he was ever out on the water, they would say, "Where's Archie?" "Oh, he's out in field service."
That's actually pretty funny. Is that field service? Oh Lord, he's getting that time in. Oh my goodness.
But at any rate,
That's funny.
to answer Kat's question, that was the reason. It was obligation on our part, all parents' part, to do that. It was
Yeah.
part of the kids' training. But also, the other thing was, years ago, the Watchtower taught that was our time of recreation with our children, was going door to door.
Yeah.
They actually stated that many times. You're too busy. Well, when you go door to door, you're with your children. That's the time to have recreation with them. Talk to them about stuff. Between doors. It was really crazy. Very bizarre when you look.
Well, and that too, Dad. They also wanted you to take your families to meetings when you went on vacation and go out in field service while you were on vacation. Now,
Every vacation, we always went to Kingdom Hall.
I'll give my dad credit, though. My parents
Even
credit.
field service.
We only went to meetings one time when we went on vacation growing up.
Lucky.
Only once.
You heathen.
My elder
Worldly
dad
heathen.
only took us to a meeting one time on vacation.
Oh,
He should have been removed a long time ago.
Yeah. You're marked. You are
Because we
definitely
were
marked.
family.
Yeah, I know. Because we took somebody else in the congregation on vacation with us that one time. And that's the only reason we went to the meeting.
Just to make it look good, huh?
Yeah.
I've never done it. Why?
You got to show off for
At
other
any
people
rate,
when
that
you're
was our
around.
comment. We were thinking about that. We thought maybe Kat would like to know about that. That's it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Y'all take care.
Yep, you too, Dad and Mom. Thanks for calling.
Bye, Dad and Mom. Thank you for calling. We appreciate it.
Bye.
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 But that is the truth. It's just to make little soldiers, little robots, and keep people in that vicious cycle.
Well, it's like of course, I'm not trying to sing on the air or nothing, but one of their songs was, you can reach the heart if you early start, was one of the lyrics. I'm sure you know what song I'm talking about.
No, but I know that lyric. Yeah, no.
And so it's just like, that was the whole point, to get them in as early as possible and indoctrinate them as soon as you could.
Get them excited. When as a child, you don't have anything to look forward to. Like, you don't have anything to make your parents proud. Those are the things you have to make your parents proud. Answering at the meetings, going out in field service, policing a magazine, setting a good example, witnessing to a friend at school. That is the means in which you can make your parents feel like you're a good little Jehovah's Witness. So you do it.
Yeah.
And you pretend you like it because that's the only option you have. It looks like we have another caller, James.
Okay.
We're pushing buttons. The magic is happening. Hello. You are on live with James and Ryan. Can you hear us okay?
Yes. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for calling. So you're from Brisbane, Australia?
Yes.
And are you Judeo-Christian? You wanted to talk a little bit about Judeo-Christianity? Is that it?
More precisely, meta onto epistemically proving onto epistemological Judeo-Christianity with a categorical syllogism.
Well, that might be too many big words for me, my friend. You might have to dumb that down a little bit. Unless you know, James, but
no, I'm right with you. So if
nope,
I'll go with what Ryan said.
I'll take A for an answer. Could you? I mean, I know what epistemology is. I know what Christian Judaism is, but I'm not necessarily sure exactly what you mean. If you don't mind trying to explain that a little more simplistically, unless somebody in the audience has it.
Yes, so what meta-onto epistemology means is how we interpret epistemology as ontologism preconditions epistemology, entailing Judeo-Christian / biblical epistemology.
Why don't you maybe give me an example? Is that possible? Of what you mean, and then maybe I can pick up what you're putting down.
Yes, I can present the categorical syllogism, starting with my pre-biblical premise 1, non-finitism, meta-onto epistemizing, non-ultimatism entails onto epistemologicalism. Premise 2, P1 entails onto epistemic biblicalism, Genesis 1:1 to Revelation 22:21. Conclusion, thus P1 indirectly and P2 directly entail onto epistemological Judeo-Christianity / biblicalism. So what's your responses to P1?
Are you trying to use
So wait,
this
are you?
as-
No, go ahead, James.
I was gonna ask, are you trying to use these premises as a way to prove the Judeo-Christianity?
Yeah, I think that's
Yes.
like the long and short, right?
Verbally.
Is that so you're saying the New Testament basically backs up that the Old Testament is prophesying that Jesus is like the Savior, right? And then like it's a whole cycle that's like proved by the New Testament or something.
Yes.
All
the
right.
new-
I might be dumbing down like a very sorted topic, I guess.
Because it's a lot of terms that I'm not super familiar with, honestly, and that's why we're trying to break it down and simplify it. So that's why we're trying to kind of press you on getting it a little bit simpler for us to understand.
So I guess you obviously believe that Jesus is a son of God or is God. I'm not sure which.
Your question is an informal fallacy, as you're possibly dodging my pre-biblical P1. So it's not a belief. So we'll start with.
Well, I can't dodge something I don't understand, sir. Yeah, this isn't going to get anywhere if I don't understand you. No offense.
Non-finitism. What's your definition of non-finitism?
I don't have.
This is one of the producers and expecting Ryan to even understand what you're saying is not reasonable. So you should just try to use everyday terms.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Like, we're former cult members. I'm just kind of waking up here. We're fielding calls about specifically the Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't mind talking about anything, but I don't understand your concepts. So if you're trying to have an honest conversation with me, then you're going to really have to dumb it down. As far as Judeo-Christianity, I think it's bullshit. Jesus is, I don't know what he is to you, but he's not a God. He's not a son of God. He's just a human. So I guess maybe that's my answer to you. I'm not really sure what you're asking to really answer it thoroughly. Sorry.
And if you're using the Bible as a premise to prove the Bible, that's already a fallacy in itself of circular reasoning, which you should know. And we're not going to fall for that kind of reasoning on here either. So that's why when we are asking about your premises to dumb them down, we really need to get to the basics of what they are. And when you're using all these really big words,
Who
which
could you even
they
talk
are,
to like this?
it's not going through to us, certainly, and probably not a lot of our audience that we have watching the show right now.
It's going over everybody's head. And I'm not laughing at you. I'm sorry. It's just like I want to converse with you. I'd love to talk about the Bible. I always like talking about the Bible, but I just can't. I'm not getting what you're putting down.
Claims here. You're both making a lot of claims here.
We haven't made one claim here.
You're making
Not
claims. The Bible's written by men. I mean, there you go. There's a claim. I think
that's a fact.
We have evidence. Yeah, that's true.
We haven't made any claims about whether there's a God or not a God or anything like that. We're trying to understand where you're coming from and trying to understand what you're presenting to us. So that's what we're trying to have a conversation about. So we're not trying to put you down or put any religion down at all. We want to understand what you're talking about. And that's why we're trying to ask all these questions here to get to an understanding of that. But if we can't get to that, we're going to just have to move on to another caller.
We're just talking about myself.
There's a lot of, I can explain one of the claims. So
Okay.
Firstly, my P1 is not circular as it's pre-biblical, not biblical. So the male voice, from my understanding, asserted that I'm using the Bible to prove the Bible, even though I've stated multiple times it's pre-biblical. So we'll start again from the first word, non-finitism. What are your definitions of non-finitism? If you don't yet, go ahead.
I've already said I don't understand these terms. I'm not really sure what else.
Yeah. So
are you a scholar? Is this like your thing or something? Is that why you only know these big terms? Is that like it's difficult for you to like come down to another level? Is that the problem?
Your question is an informal fallacy and loaded, as you're possibly dodging my pre-biblical premise one. So if you don't understand what non-finitism means, then I can explain it to you.
That would be lovely, because I've now said twice I didn't understand. Thank you so much for now finally understanding what I've said. Please, I would love for you to explain it to me. Thank you.
Yes, so non-finitism means the opposite to finiteness, which would be ultimate C. And only a mind can be ultimate C, because free will is not subject to parts, entailing absoluteness, further entailing eternalness, because to be eternal requires an all-powerful mind, not subject to death / entropy. So an absolute, eternal, all-powerful mind is who we call God. Agreed?
No, I don't agree, because how are we going to prove that there's an ultimate, eternal, powerful mind?
And who gave that definition that that's what a God is? Like who's making these definitions?
I'll just type out your question. That's not what I
think a God is.
Just respond to the claim first. I'll just type who's defining the definitions. So from my understanding, the male voice, you proved my pre-biblical premise one with the pronoun I. Because you are finite, you are subject to your opposite, revealingly, ultimate C, or the R for stated reasons. To answer the question, who's defining the definitions? I'm basing my definitions off the Bible and dictionaries in general. I yield.
The problem is, though, we only have what we know when it comes to the finite. That's our lives. That's our existence. And we have no way of proving anything outside of that. So unless we can get to that, I don't think we can really have a productive conversation here. And I think you're trying to come on and prove something, especially on a show that this really isn't what the conversation was about tonight either. So if you want to ask
people
us,
who probably can have these kind of conversations, it's just, this is not the right show for that.
Yeah.
That's
And
not what I do. That's not the kind of conversations I have. This is too far. I'm still trying to get a grasp of the normal shit. Like, you're taking it up like a couple levels.
And we've
too-
both
too
told
high.
you already that these are not the conversations that we really understand or have. So it's kind of hard for you to keep pressing on with this conversation when we're not really following what you're trying to get to, what point you're trying to get to either.
We're not connecting with you,
So-
which is disappointing.
It is. And I really don't mind having conversations like this, but I would like to get to the point of how we're going to get to there. Where's this exactly going, and what's the whole point of this conversation? If we can't get to that, I think we should just
The question.
move on if we can't get to that point.
I've just typed out your question, so I will address your claims before answering the question, as you're possibly running from your claims with an informal question. Firstly,
We haven't made
Are
any
you talking
claims.
to us?
We haven't made any
I feel like
claims.
we're not in a. I feel like this is not
Yeah.
a reciprocal conversation, and
This
you're being a
isn't.
little disingenuous, or it's possibly that we're just not. Not everybody is meant to have conversations, and maybe we are just not connecting. But I feel like you're not giving. Maybe this is your attempt at giving a little, but you're just. I've made no
Yeah.
claims. I don't believe
think-
any of this shit.
Ryan, I think I'm going to go ahead and call this. I'm going to say thank you for calling in. And
We
I think
do
we're just going to go
appreciate it.
ahead and leave it at that.
Sorry, I think.
We're sorry. If, our links are in the description. If you want to contact us and try to have a conversation, I'm open and willing for it. But
Send me
this
some
isn't-
links.
this isn't the platform for it right now. And
Sorry.
I'm sorry about that. But we're going to go ahead and move on and wish you a wonderful evening.
Bye-bye. Sorry about that, James.
It's okay. Hope you don't mind. I took the reins on that one there.
No, I felt like there was no give and take. He
No.
wasn't like, I don't know how many times I have to tell you this is a bit out of my range, which I think most people would know that.
Yeah.
After the first time we were like, wait, what does that mean? I think that was an indication. That should be a social cue indication, like, okay, how can I, because we all talk to people who don't know about the Bible. If I explain something to them and they're like, wait, what does Armageddon mean? I'm like, okay, I've got to think of another way to convey my message. And he just wasn't attempting to do that.
Yeah.
Or
And
couldn't.
when we can't establish just a basic guideline for a conversation of back and forth, it's really hard to have a conversation, because it almost, and I'm going to be honest here, it felt like talking to a
Maybe that's what he
JW,
was doing.
because all they want to
Maybe
do
he
is
was
direct
trolling
you
us.
in their version of the conversation, and they don't want to have a back and forth with you. They only want you to go in their direction. And that's not what conversations are about. Conversations are about back and forth. It's about, if I say something, you're supposed to be listening and responding according to what I say. So,
Mhm.
and if we can't do that, we can't have a conversation, really.
And there are people that do come on this show that we are friends
Mhm.
with that have these conversations on a regular basis, or just like Jay, Mike, Eric, even probably secularity. Like they can have these conversations, and I just listen and I'm like, okay, somebody needs to give me like the 101 real quick. There's a lot of schools of thought I've not been privy to, right?
Yeah.
Ideas I've never even heard of still. We're trying to figure out who we are as people. And you're just coming in here hot with these big damn words.
And like you do a lot of TikToks on biblical stuff, like with Asherah and things like that. And you're doing all this studies and stuff on your own time and everything. So you're ahead of me on all that stuff. And even I still have a hard time following that stuff sometimes. So, and you're still at the beginnings of the basics on that. So it's kind of
Oh
hard
my
to go
God.
from that
There's
to
so
this dude's
much.
level way up here. It's just like, hang on.
Right. And
So-
and anybody who's any kind of educator or any kind of conversationalist knows that, right?
Mhm.
Dr. Josh Bowen isn't going to come in here speaking Sumerian and expecting us to understand.
Exactly.
And Rabbi Mike isn't going to come in here and use all these big scholarly words, saying things that Hebrew words that we just simply couldn't understand. He knows how to come down and meet us where we are. And I just felt like that wasn't happening.
Nope.
Whether it's intentional, unintentional, I don't know. People are different. I understand that. Like, not everybody has the same social cues and whatnot. And I try to keep that in mind. But at some extent, like, I myself need to protect who I am as a person. And for my own sanity, I think I just needed to walk away from that conversation because I was making claims that I didn't know I was making. He was mansplaining my claims to me.
Yeah. And that in itself is just rude too.
Mhm.
We weren't making any claims. We were trying to understand what he was saying. And that's just the basic of what that was. And we weren't getting there. So time to move on.
Exactly. Puck, I appreciate that. One thing you've always wanted an ExJW to talk about more is just how much of your life the religious beliefs try to get in the way of. Oh my gosh. Let me
That's a
just tell you.
very loaded question.
It's everything. I
Everything.
mean,
Yeah.
it's your career, it's your education.
It's your
It's what you do
life.
at your free time, your hobbies, how you think, how you dress.
I've said this many times before, and it really does get in the way of your very life. And I've talked about this on this channel before and other channels. When I was born, my parents were told that I needed a blood transfusion in order to survive right after birth. And because of their beliefs at the time, they refused it. And I could have died as a result of that. So the religion gets in the way of every bit of your life, including up to death.
Yep, it certainly does. We used to carry a card in our wallets, and if we were ever unconscious and bleeding, that card basically said, "Let us die."
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, of course, doctors, nurses are going to do all they can to save somebody within the limits of what the person grants you. But if you're bleeding out, there's only so much they can do. They can stop the bleed, but it's a possibility you bleed out. And we carried that card, and we're proud to give our lives for the organization. Thank you so much, Farron. And also, again, I want to thank Prometheus. Thank you for your super chat. And I know there were some others too. I promise at the end, I'm going to be sure to. Oh, and see,
Thank you,
you
Puck.
all are just, yeah, thank you, Puck. Appreciate that.
Yes.
And that makes us very happy to hear that people are learning. I really think that just sharing our stories is a huge way to learn from each other and commiserating.
Yeah.
In the ways that our lives are similar when we felt so alone. I know there were so many times I just felt like nobody understood, nobody got me. And now there's just thousands of people who get me. And that's just, it's freaking wild, man. That shit's wild when you really think about it, to know that you have friends who just understand exactly what you're talking about.
So
it does. It permeates every single aspect of your life. And at this moment, trying to decide what I like to wear. I mean, even just how I like to wear my hair. I used to think that short hair wasn't allowed, certain styles of dress. I mean, I don't even like, obviously I wear clothes on a regular basis, but I don't really have a style. I don't know how to dress
Well, I
myself.
mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. My tattoos, I couldn't got that. I
Mhm.
couldn't have a
Yep.
beard as a JW male,
Which is
nor
just a
could I have
stupid
long hair as a
thing.
guy as a JW either. So,
Yeah, you
you're
couldn't
talking
let
about
that
short hair.
ponytail blow in the wind.
Exactly. So all sorts of things. We can live our lives now and do what makes us happy and not have to worry about, oh, is somebody going to get offended if I grow my hair long or if I wear a beard or get a tattoo? You know,
Nope, exactly. So when you were transitioning out of the religion and you were finding all this content, you found, I'm guessing, people online to talk to. Was there anything else that helped you through that transition? Was your wife at that time awake, or was she still kind of in the mix?
well, my wife told
My
me when we were
wife.
dating that she didn't believe in the religion.
Okay.
But at the time of my waking up, we were living near her family. And so I kept it to myself because I didn't want to upset that balance, because she had her parents there, she had her sister there. They helped out with the kids. We did things a lot with them. And at first, I didn't say nothing about me waking up because I knew what the implications were going to be if we left. But
Mm.
there came a day when she could see it coming, I guess, because we were actually talked about this not too long ago, and I didn't know this until that conversation, how she knew or had an inkling at the last convention that we went to in 2018 that I was waking up. Oh, I don't know why my connection's doing that. Can you still hear me?
Oh, I can still hear you fine.
Okay. But
That's a good look.
yeah, I'm sure it is for all of our sakes.
I know.
Hang on one second, see if I can.
No worries. So just quickly, so Jehovah's Witnesses, I could listen to some rap as long as it was, mild. But certain like rock music you can't listen to. Or they thought it was like Satan worshiping music. And every family is probably different. There's probably some families who can't listen to any rap or any rock and roll. They're going to leave that up to like your, I don't know, I
Conscience.
guess. Yeah, exactly. It's a conscious matter. That's good.
But it's a conscience matter as long as it doesn't violate XYZ.
Again,
So,
yeah.
it's
They're still
all
going to have those guidelines there for you to follow.
it's all
Absolutely.
basically a preordained uh script for you to follow, and if you don't follow these, then you're not a good JW.
Mm-hmm. So what were you saying? You were we were talking about your wife, right?
Yeah,
She
so
had told you.
so she was picking up that I was, not believing in it anymore after that last convention we went to in 2018. And a couple weeks later, she got home from work and she was taking a shower, and I was in there and we were talking. She asked me, she goes, "Do you believe it anymore?" And I remember in that moment, I'm thinking, okay, if I say yes, we're going to prolong it. And I'm going to have to keep going to meetings once in a while and going out, knocking on doors once in a while. We weren't very regular as it was to begin with, but still would have to keep up the facade.
Yeah.
But if I say no, I'm kind of just throwing all my cards in the air and seeing where they land. I said no. And she goes, okay. And
She was like,
yeah, I mean, she was happy that, we were going to finally leave, but at the same time, sad about what the consequences of that were going to be, because her
Mhm.
parents and her sister and her brother would all start to shun her as a result of it. But
Right.
shortly after that, we made our plans, and within 5-6 months, we were gone completely. Like we got jobs in another state, we moved away, and by January of that following year, 2019, January 6th actually was the day, we were moved back here to Virginia.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that.
And Crystal is still being shunned by her family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, for a while, it was her parents would answer when she would call or text. And then we had something happen where they don't do that anymore.
It's a shame. It makes me
Yeah.
sad, but I hear it all the time. I get comments constantly about people who don't talk to their friends and family. I actually have a comment that I still need to respond to on TikTok. I've just not had the wherewithal to make the response. I forget which video she made the comment on, but she said, I'm currently disfellowshipped. There's nothing wrong with it. My parents are shunning me. I understand it. Like, she's basically saying she understands why she's being shunned, and it's like not that big of a deal.
Well,
And
she's,
my heart just breaks for her. Like, you deserve compassion.
yeah.
What happened to you that you think that you deserve this and it's not that big of a deal? That's gut wrenching.
Well, she's been taught that whatever she did is her fault. And that,
Right.
and I don't know what she did that the elders said she's disfellowship, but whatever it is, it's one of those things that it really shouldn't matter unless you're a person who's like a drug addict that won't ever recover, or you have just these major issues where you're so toxic to your family that you're stealing money, stealing their and draining them of everything they have physically, emotionally, and financially, then there's nothing warranted about shunning your family over whatever you might have done. And the JWs are so quick to do that to you for some of the most minor things. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's not natural for family members to want to disconnect from other family members. Now, I totally get you might have issues, a narcissistic parent, abusive, whatever. And you've got to, like, we're not talking about normal boundaries that we need to set up to protect ourselves. We are talking about somebody smoking and having to get disfellowship because they smoke or they drink. You know, someone who might need help with an addiction, a medical addiction. It's not easy. They make all kinds of pills and chews and lotions and potions for this stuff because it's hard to quit. And at your time of need, your stability, who are supposed to be your friends and family, if that time comes and they have to cut you off, they think you deserve it. And that is, that's
like,
not,
like
that's
my friend
conditional love.
I told you about. He was told he has an addiction. I won't go into what it is. And he was disfellowshipped because of it. And he went out and sought help from a therapy group, kind of like AA. Okay. I know there's problems with those, but it did help him out. All right. And he actually worked his way back to getting reinstated again as a result of him going out and finding help. And the elders kicked him out, and his support system from his friends and all that was gone. So that's what they do to you. You need help with something, but we're going to kick you out and leave you to your own, and you better thrive and, you know, come groveling back to us when you're not doing it again. But if you have an addiction, you need help. You don't need to be kicked out and lose all your support, especially if you're looking to get help.
Exactly. And I think that is a huge part of it is you have these decisions in the hands of men, all different men. So every different person is going to draw a different conclusion about a situation. So you and I could be in the exact same situation, but the elders decide to make a different decision. There's nothing uniform. Maybe at some elders might have a heart and not want to disfellowship you, while others are gunning for it. They're just bloodthirsty to clean up Jehovah's Kingdom Hall. It's unfortunate that people think it's universal and everything works the same way and there's no differences between Kingdom Halls. But it's one of the things when you wake up, you realize they're all different. They're all doing their own damn thing.
And the sad thing is, when you go before the elders, it's always 3 elders that you go into a back private room of a Kingdom Hall or somewhere else if the Kingdom Hall is not available, and you confess your sins to these 3 elders, right? Then they kick you out of the room for a while. They deliberate. Now, they'll tell you they're praying, and I'm sure they are, but that they're going to get God's Holy Spirit and it's going to come over them to help them make the right decision and this and that. Really, when it comes down to it all, they're voting on whether to do it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's 3. So
it's like casting lots about that crap.
And on top of that, if I'm incorrect about this, Dad, correct me. If I'm incorrect about this, I think that it's supposed to be a majority vote. I mean, not a majority, 100% vote, basically, one way or the other. So
really?
that way, when the person gets disfellowshipped or doesn't get disfellowshipped, they think it's God's Holy Spirit coming upon them, when really the elders are told that it has to be one way or the other. You can't just have one that says no and 2 that say yes. You have to have all 3 in agreement. So even more.
I didn't realize that, but that makes sense. Right. Well, that's what you're told. Like when I was disfellowshipped, I wasn't told at that moment, but I was told about the process is that it's God making the decision. He already knows. He's just conveying that message to the elders. So yeah, when I got disfellowshipped, I was like, God damn, God hates me.
Yeah, but I mean, you see how they do it to set you up to make you think that's exactly how it is when it's really not either.
Oh yeah. It's to make you feel worse. And Puck, I think, like, to answer your question, to some extent, I understand exactly what you mean. Like if you're dating somebody and they don't want to be with you, if you're in a club, whatever, and they don't like you, I get it. Walk away, keep it pressing. Who wants to be around people who don't want you? But in many instances, that's really not the reality of what these people are facing. Like you say, you have a large group of friends and whatnot, but for the JWs, you're not allowed to have, maybe some do, but for the most part, most of us stick to the guidelines, and we don't have friends. We don't have social networks. We definitely don't have like savings account and money, because everything's being invested back into the organization. So when they cut you off, it might leave you like without a job, without a place to live. There's so many things that can like a domino effect happen. And it's I mean, again, this is all intentional. So that way you have nothing and want to come back. Like they want you to be emotionally, mentally, physically bankrupt. So the only way you can get your refill is by lowering your standards and coming back to Jehovah.
Do you remember that video from the Bunker series where the girl got disfellowshipped?
I mean, there's like so many, probably. Yeah.
It was probably about 6 or 7 years ago now.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about the recent ones that we covered, but it's a little bit older. But they did a whole video on this, and she gets disfellowship because she fell in love with a coworker and had sex and got pregnant, I think. And so according to their timeline, she was out for like 15 years, right? And then she started, saying how she tried to call her mother and her parents wouldn't answer the phone at all, because she was disfellowship when she needed help and was, desperate and lonely.
Right.
I mean, and then at the end, she works her way back in to get reinstated. And the reason she said she got reinstated was to be with her family again. Not because it's the true religion and I gotta please God, but because she wanted to have those relationships with her family. And that is the only reason that they do that to you. So they keep you in just because of your family.
Living a lie, living a life you don't want to live, really. Being miserable to some extent. Like on some hand, you're being miserable because it doesn't suit you. You can't have a personal relationship with a God you can't connect to. But it's better to have, you're thinking in your head, it's better to have my friends and my family. So I guess I'll just suck it up and do what I have to do to go back. And that's usually that's what I did. I went back. It took me 2 or 3 letters I had to write to get reinstated. And boy, they were not welcoming when I came back.
So was your letters A, B, and C?
Yes. I wrote
or
A,
just A and B.
then I sent that it. Well, the first letter was A, and then I mailed that.
For assholes.
No, but like, yeah, that should have been like A for asshole, you mother effers. Like, let me back in, or no, I don't want to come back at all. Is what it should have said. Like,
Right.
it just hurts me to think that, like, as this teenage girl, I'm like writing these letters, begging for forgiveness, thinking that any moment Armageddon's coming and God hates my guts because I was disfellowshipped.
And that's how they want you. They want you groveling back to them because it's like some sort of, oh, geez, Dan.
You naughty, naughty guy, Dan.
You go, Dan. You show them, buddy.
You go, Dan. It's all right. We're proud of you. Don't
Proud
show
of
up
you,
to
man.
that judicial meeting. I wish I'd have done that. Damn, I wish I'd have done that. I didn't want to go.
Should see this in his next comment. A, B, see you later.
Adios. That's
Adios,
the letters I
amigos.
should have written.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, really? People. So people that have been shunned in groups like AA and NA. Actually, the person decides to leave and join some other sobriety group or do sobriety on their own, and they use the same tactics.
You know, Micah. You know Micah, right?
Yeah.
He's in AA, and he's told me some of this stuff about it, like that, how they shun you and treat you like an outcast. They use the same cult tactics as the JWs did, and that was part of what helped him in his waking up process, was because of that.
Recognizing the parallels. Yeah. Some of the things, like, there was a bunch of different little things that kind of worked up to me waking up, but one of them was watching Leah Remini's Scientology. I forget what other, some of the LDS stuff was on the news at the time, and their documentaries, and Sister Wives. I know. Stop. I like trash
of
TV.
All shows.
Okay? I like trash TV, and I would watch it just going like, like, there's some similar ideas there, but I'd be like, no, they're so different. Could not be. JW's never believed in polygamy. Like, it's so different. And then honestly, like, behind the scenes, a lot of the core beliefs are all the same.
JWs would have been a lot more fun if they believed in polygamy.
Could you imagine?
Jeez.
Now, but here's the thing. If for whatever reason the organization began to push that as a model, guess what would happen? They would fall in line because you don't dissent.
Nope.
You do not disagree with the governing body.
It's that whole obedience. What do they say? That you need to obey whether it seems logical from a human standpoint or not.
Wait, would you say, I'm sorry?
Their one watchtower where they said that you have to obey whether it seems logical from a human standpoint or not.
Oh, right. Like, doesn't matter.
And that's how much they want you to be obedient to them. It doesn't have to be logical. It doesn't have to make sense. Just obey. Period.
Yep. That's how it goes. We don't question authority.
Yeah.
Their word is, that's it. It's bond.
So
Yeah, and hey, nothing wrong with poly. I just was interested in seeing how all these wives could, I don't know, raise all these children together. Like he's not sorry, not
my
sorry, but he's not helping.
my
He's
wife watched that
barely
show
helping, and
too.
that's evident now. Well, I mean, I don't know if she's been keeping up with it, but it's pretty evident at this point that a lot of his children, not that they hate him, I'm not making those kind of claims, but that he was an absentee father, because how can you be there for
All
I
those
can't
kids.
yeah,
Yeah.
40
But
maybe.
see,
I don't know how many kids.
here's what I always thought of, just from a guy's perspective too. Hey, thanks, Dan. Appreciate that, man.
Oh, D&D. Thank you so much.
But I was always thinking about, okay, well, how is he not just keeping up with the kids, but how's he keeping up with the wives? You know, like I know he has a schedule to see him and everything, but like, how does he keep up with them? Like, and men, as they grow older, they start to have problems down there and need solutions. And like, you know, how
Gender affirming care. Is that what you're saying? Sometimes men need gender affirming care.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Absolutely. Even straight white males need that sometimes.
Wow. Isn't that amazing?
I
That should
know.
be like a right for everybody to have gender affirming care. But anyway, yeah, at a certain point, you might need some help. And how are you keeping the schedule straight when the kids are sick, when kids have, like, are you making every game? Are you able to go to their plays? I
And before you had a TV show making all that money, what did you do to make a living for all that?
I don't know. I don't know.
So,
I kind of feel like it might have been cult MLM stuff, because MLMs seem to be driven by cult like thinking. There's this pyramid, and it's the same situation with religion. Instead of the pyramid, it's just the umbrella. And we saw that
mhm.
on the IBLP Shiny Happy People.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know if we use that umbrella illustration in the Jehovah's Witnesses, but that was the similar, it's the
Oh,
exact same model.
oh yeah, it was the same model. That's,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, when I saw that umbrella picture for that, I'm like, even though we didn't use it, that's exactly what they did.
You
Same
recognize it.
exact thing. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Because children are the lowest down at the totem pole.
and
It's
that's just
God, it's Jesus governing body, the elders, the COs, or all that kind of bull crap.
and that's just
Minutia.
another way to show you that the Jehovah's Witnesses, despite some doctrinal disparities, aren't that far off from every other Christianity religion out there.
No. And
Stuff like
again,
that.
this is how religion, this is like the things that are blowing my mind, learning how religion is transmitted through time. Like nobody's really creating these ideas. They're just borrowing them from each other, building on them, adapting them, and
And
creating doctrines around it.
and if you want to go back, and I talked about this actually with Dr. Josh Bowen one time on my channel, how all the religions, you know, the Israelites, they took bits and pieces of their religion from other religions around them and meshed them in with their beliefs. And that's how they came up with their own religion. But it's still bits and pieces from everywhere else. So it wasn't like their own original thought anyways.
No.
So,
And that's what drives me wild about Christianity.
and
I'm
dogs.
so sorry, guys. That's what drives me wild about Christianity, is that they make it seem as though their religion happened in a vacuum. Jesus came and this beautiful religion was birthed. Like Jesus just pushed it out through his magic stick, and Christianity was born. When realistically, what happened is these ideas are borrowed from the Persians and from the Romans and from the Egyptians and then Canaan, and it's all just being tied together in their own little new package. And 2,000 years later, plus whatever, it's still being done. It's still happening. It's just repackaged religion. You are no different. You're not special. Your God is not special. Everybody says the same thing about their God being special, and it's just not true, right, Pickle? Oh, get it, girl. She agrees. See, Pickles agrees.
You're the God to pickles.
Right. Hey, anybody can be a God if you
I'll
turn
just
them
start
into
calling
one.
you Dog God.
Dog God. God dog. God dog it.
Dog
So
Dog it.
everybody, just so you know, I'm doubting we're gonna have any callers come in, but
Actually, we
at
got one
this
being
moment,
screened right now from what I
oh,
saw.
I'm
Yeah.
just okay. Well, just a friendly reminder, we're at that 1 hour and 25-minute mark. If there's any questions that you have, um, comments, doesn't have to be questions, any experiences you would like to share about the Jehovah's Witnesses or ask us about ours, please pop it in the comments or give us a little ring a dingy dingy. We don't mind that. The phone number is 984-789-4787. There you
Yes.
have it. Yes,
So
please and thank you.
looks like our caller's ready. If you're ready.
Oh, yes, please. Hello there. You are live
Hello?
with Rion and James. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, this is Slew. I've spoken with you guys before on other shows, but
Hey, Sloop.
I, yeah, on the
I
420
know you are,
episode
Slew. How you
of the other
doing?
thing.
Yeah.
Good. You guys were talking about shunning and everything earlier, and I was wondering how that works with. I imagine there's a lot of codependency and everything that they create in the JW religion, so it must affect you guys even more with that. If it's anything like the independent fundamentalist Baptist church like I grew up in, and the way that the shunning and codependency and everything work with it. I was just wondering if you might be able to speak on that a little bit.
That is such a good point. Do you have
Mhm.
anything you want to speak on first, James, about codependency?
One of the big things that comes to mind, and I was lucky I didn't have this myself, but I know people who did, where different JWs would have their own little businesses and they would hire other JWs to work for them. And there's even, I don't know, Ryan, if you know who Sasha and Sherry D'Souza are. They're an Australian ExJW couple. I follow them on
I
Facebook, and they've been big
not
activists in the
sure.
community. But anyways, when they woke up and were leaving, he actually got caught by one of his JW coworkers because he forgot to erase his history on his computer. Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Oh,
And so
darn.
that's how codependent the religion can make you. You know, you got to really watch your steps. You got to watch everything you do, especially if you're doubting the religion and waking up, especially if you're working for another Jehovah Witness at that time, because then you got to start thinking about, okay, I got to go find myself employment outside of this because I'm just going to get fired anyways. And I'm going to lose all my friends, all my family. And so they purposely do that to keep you in line. Now, I'm not saying every Jehovah's Witness out there works for another Jehovah Witness, because there's still many that don't. But for those that do, it really makes that codependency even stronger when they have to rely on the religion for their work and for their support in basically everything, really.
Yeah.
It seems like it'd be even more so with somebody that's like assigned female at birth or a female being reliant on the
Yeah.
men and stuff. If it was anything like I said, like what I grown up in, I get the feeling that some parts are and some parts, obviously aren't. But yeah,
I
did
think there,
you find that?
yeah, I can speak from experience, the kind of like a caretaker syndrome, like always feeling like your partner, whatever their problem is, whatever their issue is, you can fix it, you can help them. It's your responsibility to help them actually. Like, and if there is a problem, it probably is your fault. And when it comes to like addiction, in my oh my mom and dad, like I always saw my mom I don't think it was her intention to enable him, like my father, in his drinking. But that always seemed to be the cycle, is that she would give in of it. I mean, it wasn't her responsibility, but she would give in, and he would be able to start drinking again. And then he would realize he's done too much. He's not behaving properly. He would stop drinking, but then, he would get good, and then he deserved a beer. And then it would just be like, okay, well, not too much. And then it was just back into that cycle. And I think that my mom would feel like it was her fault, like it was something that she was doing, that she couldn't help him control his inability to control an addiction. And the reaction at the Kingdom Hall from the elders when she would ask for help, to me, was just a bunch more enabling, because their solution to the problem was prayer. You need to pray more. You need to go out and field service, like all empty things that do nothing but serve helping the governing body fill their pockets. So yeah, there's definitely a problem with, and of course I'm sure that happens to men too, and to children, but I can just speak from experience being in like bad relationships and watching abusive behaviors just constantly being overlooked and poo-pooed, and it's not that big of a deal, and you should be able to take care of him so he doesn't want to drink, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
And I want to add something to that too, real quick, because those activities that you're doing, the praying, the service, the meetings, and all that, the studying, only fuel that addiction even further. Because
they don't help.
Because they're not helping it. They're making it worse. They are the reason the person has that addiction. Maybe not the ultimate reason, but it's not helping that addiction
it's part
in
of
any
it.
ways. But it's definitely part of it, because they're always being told that they're not doing enough. They're not worthy enough if you're not doing X, Y, and Z. And then don't forget to do A, B, C, and LMNOP as well. It's never enough that you do. And so it just keeps on cycling and cycling of these, addictions, going in and out of it. And a lot of people, when they leave these cults, they find their way free of these addictions because they don't need that coping mechanism anymore once they get rid of all that baggage.
Exactly. It's a good point. It's such a good point. What's so funny, Slew? I'm going to tell you all a story. So sometime, like when I hit my teens, like I wasn't really in a good spot in my head, because I felt like I was a happy person, but I wasn't getting anything from life that was making me happy. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't play sports. Like I couldn't do all the things that kids do. And sometime around, I think 17, I think my parents were finally starting to see that I was struggling. And we went and got a book. I got a self-help book, and it was called Codependent No More, I believe. And I remember reading the book in the backseat of my parents' car, and like some bells are going off. And I'm like, wow, this sounds familiar. So I said to my parents, like, oh my goodness, I think that like we're all codependent. And they were like, skirt, what? And I was like, oh, and I read this paragraph. It was like somewhere in the beginning of the book. I mean, it wasn't even deep into the book, but it was just explaining stuff that was like, oh, wow, this makes sense. And then I had to put that book back down. They're not codependent. We're not codependent. No such thing. Yeah, I know, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you're really hitting the nail on the head with it, I think. Like for us, it was, I know they made women just be codependent on men, and, the men codependent on the God, and the umbrella thing you guys were talking about earlier. It's all a form of codependency that loops into that. But yeah, I wanted to call in and I love you guys. I'm glad that you guys escaped and that you got out of all of that. you can be doing things like this and having good talks. So
And we appreciate
That's
the
easy.
support.
Yeah,
Thank you
so
so
appreciate you
much.
calling in, man.
It's dope. Thank you. We appreciate it. What's a Slew's channel? Do you know offhand?
You had to ask that question. I can.
Slew, if you're in the chat, you just pop it in there so that way our
Yeah.
friends can give you a little like and follow. And
think
I
it-
think I
it's-
saw Mary in the chat too.
The Skeptical Satanist is his channel.
Ah, there we go.
That's
There
what
we
it was.
go. If y'all want to give our friend Slew a little follow, we've done some shows together, enjoyable
Yep.
times.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, codependency, boy, that just brings up
Yeah.
a
And like
whirlwind.
I said, it's a never-ending cycle. They try to keep you codependent. It's that shot of codependent drugs that they want to hit you with all the time to make you feel like you still need it. And that's why breaking free from these cults is so hard, because it's not necessarily physical restraints, it's mental restraints. And when you trap a person's mind, you don't have to worry about tying them up physically.
Because they do it for themselves.
Yeah.
Their mind is their own
And
prison.
then
That's how I felt.
And then on top of all that, they get you to a state of not only where you police yourself within it, but you also police others as well. And all that does is create more and more of that codependency.
Yeah, it is a vicious cycle. It is intentional. All of the indoctrination, all of the tactics that are employed are done throughout. There's companies that do this, different religions, there's different organizations that do, like we just said with AA and NA, that I didn't realize. They employ these same sneaky damn tactics. What is up with that? What is up with the control? Why can't people just be truthful and honest? Why is that not a good business model? I'm like, I don't know. Am I too altruistic? That to me is a good business model. Just be freaking honest. If you make a mistake, freaking fix it. There we go.
Because those in power are always afraid of those who are under them, that they'll learn the truth and overthrow their power.
I suppose that's
and I think that's what it all boils down to: their money and their power. And if they can't control that, they're nothing. And really, they are nothing. But a lot of people don't think that because they're still in those groups.
Right. And they don't know any better, and they're not going to know any different to even know that they should be looking into information about what's happening behind the scenes with Jehovah's Witnesses hiding CSA and their blood doctrine and other doctrines that they have that are just completely harmful. And you know what? We're getting to the point where we're going to wrap up the show. But I think a good way to close out would be, I'd love to hear what your top, I don't care, 3, top 5, whatever you have, worst doctrines. And we'll see if any of ours are the same for the Jehovah's Witnesses. Give them to me. Tell me.
My top worst doctrines.
Yeah.
The blood doctrine.
Okay.
Armageddon.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Shunning.
Horrific.
See what else is I mean, there's just so many to choose from. That's the problem.
In the audience, if you're familiar, what is your worst teaching that you think the Jehovah's Witnesses have? I'd love to know.
Their 2 witness rule. It's got to be up there. That's got to be up there, just because of all the problems that's caused with children being abused.
That's the one that's putting the damn nail in the coffin, keeping that everything under wraps.
And this isn't really necessarily a doctrine, but it's how they practice things, where they have the public face on their main jw.org website, and then they have the private face in their JW library app, where they teach very contradictory things about their own religion. So the public sees all the happy, flappy, crappy stuff, and then the JWs get all the real dirt and crap
Dusty,
inside
crusty.
there. Like, oh, we don't shun on the main website, but if your family member gets fellowship, don't talk to them, don't text them, don't email them, don't even do nothing with them, don't think they're alive. And that's really how they are. And that's,
Yeah.
I know it's not a doctrine, but it's just terrible in how they practice things.
Because it is insidious. Because again, it's what we're presented with to the world, which is this smiling, shiny, happy face with a
Happy
solution
people.
to life's right, with a solution to your problem. What happens when we die? Everybody wants to know what happened. Well, here we have the answer for you. And meanwhile, the answer is, okay, well, you got to go to Kingdom Hall so many times a week, and you have to go out in service, and you have to do this, all the things that you have to do to get this damn promise. That is not a promise. Nobody can promise you that. Sorry.
Nope.
I don't want to break your heart, but it's just impossible. So, yeah. Okay. So for me, I'll tell you what mine are. And I think we have 3 or 4 that cross over. So no particular order. The worst doctrine I have is the blood doctrine. I think that was one you mentioned, the 2-witness rule, shunning. Now I added the world dominion and like centric belief that the earth was created for humans to rule over, and that we are top in the class and head of the food chain, and we're really just like dilapidating earth's resources. It's criminal and quite scary. So that's, to me, because that's killing people right now. Like, people don't have fresh water. They're polluting our water streams with these damn pipelines, crude oil being piped in. I think even one of the Great Lakes, Michigan or something like that, like, is in danger right now. It's wow. The next one is the curse of Ham, because that one propped up slavery. That was used for 1400 years to be a legitimizing factor for why we could enslave people, because the color of their skin, because they were cursed by Noah, which means they were cursed by God. So that's mine. Did anybody in the comments have any? Maybe not.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of in the. Oh wait, yes. There was one. Phil mentioned one. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. Yeah, here it is. He says, "I hate the way they pair young person with older person to prevent them from being exposed to evangelism resistance."
Yeah. Again, just start that indoctrination.
Yep.
As soon as you can, get them speaking at doors to people, get them used to rejection.
Yep.
It all just builds up that little bubble that Kat mentioned, that little bubble that you're going to live in from now on. And all the while you have this bubble, but you have no boundaries. You don't understand boundaries. You don't even have enough education, knowledge. You're so ignorant. You don't even know what you need to create a boundary for and how you would even build one. You don't have the critical thinking skills. I'm just learning now how to put up boundaries. So it's, worldly things.
Yep.
This is the language that you use when you are in the call. I've had a really good chat tonight. This has been fun.
Yeah, it has been. We got some callers in, which was nice. So
yeah, we did. Even though
one.
one was a little quirky.
Yeah.
One was a little quirky. I'm not really sure what that was all about. Maybe it was a troll and we're not supposed to really get it, but
that's
whatever.
okay.
That's fine. I'm okay with that. I want to thank everybody in the audience. My goodness, do we have a list of all the people that gave the super chat? Because hello, awesome. I believe Farron, Dan D, Kalasia, Prometheus, Farron, thank you so much. Puck, Dan D's always Dan D. You guys are awesome.
Yes, you are. Thank you so much.
McLousies. You support us so much, and I feel like I say thank you, but I don't know if you really get like how much it means to me. And I was telling James, like, I'm just so thankful that we have all these really cool friends who get us. And what a beautiful experience. Like, it might have been rough, like growing up with the lifestyle that we went through, but I do kind of feel like this makes up for a lot of it. We
Well,
can't get that back. This
we
is
get to hang out with all you fine heathens, and that's great. So I love it. It's great.
I love apostates. I love my heathens. I love my heretics. Yeah, that's my kind of people. You just say the word atheist, I'm like, who? What? Oh, okay. Like, we're friends. So y'all don't forget to please, I guess I should thank our patrons: Sydney Davis Jr., Eric Ozolos, Tara S., myself, Deneen Murphy, Dan D., Michael Wiseman, Kathy Cotton, Cindy Plaza, Sunny Shell. Wow, the list just keeps going. Aaron Colson, Phil Calderon, and Jamie West. Y'all are the best. We truly appreciate that. And then we have all these amazing other shows that we have that I'm sure, see, look, they're going to put that up. Why don't you read that for us, James?
Yes. Please don't forget to check out our other shows on Skeptic Haven. The Secular Soapbox on Wednesdays, Thursdays, The Sunny Spot, Saturday, The Global Atheist and Women Atheist Unload, and Let's Talk on Sunday, which we're just about to wrap up here right now. So please keep on joining us and supporting the channel, because it is greatly appreciated. It helps this content to continuously get out and get these messages out to people, to help them know that if they are questioning their religions, they are not alone and they do have support out here.
Yeah, there's good people out there, and you never know. Just drop a line.
Yeah.
Start talking, start exploring, start asking those really hard questions. I'd like to ask my producers, is there any show coming up that I needed to blast out there for people? Maybe not. I just want to make sure I'm tying up all my loose ends, because I'm a professional host here.
Either that or you have a lot of loose ends.
I think there might be a loose ends problem. Oh, and you know what? Thank you, Dan D. That's right. I completely forgot.
Oh, yes. Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, happy 4th. My goodness.
And can I shout out one last thing before, too?
Nope. Oh, yeah, please do. Please do.
I'm going to shout out a happy anniversary to my wife. Tomorrow will be our 19th anniversary. So happy anniversary to my wife.
We love you, Crystal. Happy anniversary to you. We hope you get everything that you wish for, whatever that means.
Sorry, all she got was me.
Oh, hey, that's good. Hey, that's plenty. That is plenty gift enough. All right, y'all. I think that we have said all that we need to say. We love you. We appreciate you. Don't forget to like, share. You are important. Keep speaking your truth, sharing your experiences. You never know who you might help simply by doing that. Love you. Have a great night, y'all.
Yep.
This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.